Welcome to Isis in the Bible Spring Gathering, week number 10, Diagnosis. The question for today is, what does diagnosis mean to you? We went around the room, we got some awesome answers, so you'll enjoy that when I edit this video. Together, we'll explore the forgotten roots of the word diagnosis, from wisdom to disconnection, and uncover the deeper truth hidden in plain sight. Can you hear the guidance left behind in language? The clues are always there for the heart that listens. Quick mention, happy birthday, Christopher. Christopher's birthday today, so I know he's spending time with family, which is a beautiful thing. Okay, so let's talk about on July 15th, there's an amazing alignment coming up. So all these alignments they're great energies, right? So in which the sun, okay, the sun is going to be on and align with Pollux, which is the immortal pole star of Gemini, the twins Castor and Pollux. That's the feminine, the one that doesn't make any waves. While that's happening, this is a major alignment that's happening in the sky where Uranus is going to align Alcyone, the brightest star in the Pleiades, the seven sisters, which represents the fractal nature of the look of the ear. But like the Russian dolls, right? This is an incommensurate nature of existence, all past lives. This is what we, the Egyptians, left behind. So get ready to hear, feel, see how connected we all are, including a ramping up of synchronicities, which is already upon us. So as discussed a few weeks ago, the shape of the position of the glands of our head, right? So the shape of these is the same as the chambers in the Great Pyramid, is the same as the three Great Pyramids themselves, which is the same as Orion's belt, which is the same as the three on the Big Dipper and Little Dipper, which is the same in the alignment of the Pleiades. So that means the echoes of all these Russian dolls' past lives, all the synchronicities between us all, is really ramping up. So this peaks on July 15th, and then Uranus goes retrograde, hits again on October 29th, and for the third time I didn't bring up, because we'll talk about this later, it's going to hit again. So this whole back and forth movement as we're getting closer to Alcyone, Uranus, the one that holds up the womb, holds up the sky, holds up other people's worlds, is going to keep sending us beautiful synchronistic messages. This is why it's happening. All right, so we're going to see our own diagnosis. Okay, so where does diagnosis stem from? Dia, which means apart, but I also, like Rosemary said, Dia means goddess, God, because Dio means God and Dia means goddess. So then you got gnosis, which is wisdom, which is spiritual insight, and agnosis is lacking wisdom or spiritual blindness. This is where agnostics come in, because the agnostic, they don't believe in nothing. They want to achieve wisdom. So they're saying it in their own word. Agnostic means we don't have the wisdom, we're searching for it. Let's move on to the original Hippocratic Oath. Hippocratic Oath is a powerful and sacred text that has been heavily edited in modern times to fit institutional frameworks for profit, right? But the original in Greek calls upon divine forces, including Hygeia and all the gods and goddesses, and reflects a spiritual, ethical, and metaphysical approach to medicine. So when you translate the original from Greek, I swear by Apollo the healer, by Asclepius, by Hygeia, and you guys know who Hygeia is, right? The goddess of cleanses, which this we know does a full body cleanse. Making them my witnesses that I will fulfill according to my ability and judgment that this oath and covenant, and then there's a whole bunch more underneath it. So one of the famous sayings by Hippocrates, which is where the Hippocratic oath comes from, is a physician without the knowledge of astrology has no right to call himself a physician. It is more important to know what sort of person, your natal chart, has a dis-ease, you're not at ease, than to know what sort of dis-ease a person has. Because you don't have a dis-ease, you're just not at ease. But if you're not using astrology, the stars, then you're giving yourself the short end of the stick. You're not knowing who you are, that god, goddess that you are. So here's a recent example. So everybody's getting a diagnosis, right? Not understanding, lack of wisdom of why they're having skin breaks. So you're going to find all sorts of hype about measles, skin breaks, just as we predicted back in August 2024. You can go back in the videos and see it if you like. And we restated in May of 2025 that we said there's going to be skin breaks, which can be, here's the diagnosis, okay? They mean nothing, measles, shingles, but they're skin breaks. I had a sister they said a full body rash came out upon her, and it's in her chart, all right? They couldn't call it measles, because you can't be that old and get measles. No, of course you can. It's totally true. So this is a diagnosis, lack of wisdom to understand why these happen. There's no such thing as a virus. There's not. It's a cleansing cycle. And we've proven it over and over again. So here we're going to give you more proof. So the Juno retrograde cycle, measles, skin breaks, shingles, they're all Juno in her retrograde cycle. We've showed this many times before. You know, when she goes once, 2, 3 times, that's the shingles when it happens in 3 times. But it's the same thing with measles. And we'll talk about why. So this is just the different dates of when Juno went direct in April 21st, 2024, turned retrograde March 19th, 2025, and then turns direct on July the 10th. So she's going through these cycles, which she goes through Libra. I'll show you that in a quick little video clip, right? Because Libra is the skin, the kidneys, and the lumbar. So with her going through Libra, it's going to be the whole skin, which will be diagnosis, agnosis, lack of knowledge of what this is going to be skin breaks that goes through Libra. So I'm going to preface this because you're going to see that the multi-jurisdictional outbreak was said to be October 18th to June 3rd. How would they know? Why would they know? Well, we're going to show you what happens on October 18th, 2024 in the sky. And again, we've said it, and this is from publichealthontario.ca, but it's all over the world. It's happening everywhere. You can see Juno down here, so keep an eye on Juno, right? Everybody who wants to understand astrology needs to know this. This is Mary Magdalene, magma, skin breaks, blood coming through. So you'll see that she's moving forward, okay? And there's the dates to the left. And she enters Libra, the skin, on October 18th, 2024, which is here you got there. So they have astrologers. They're just going to sell you shit. You're going to go there for a diagnosis. You're going to go there with lack of wisdom. And the doctors don't know any better, but they're gonna make money off you because they're gonna inject you with a placebo injection because there's no such thing that can stop this if it's in your chart. There is none. And they'll tell you that the effectiveness of these are so much, but some people might still get it. And it would have been much worse if you would have taken and not taken the shot. So there you go. There's the beginning portion of it. And then you can see it's transiting through, okay? They say in early 2025, January, February, measles cases surged across multiple provinces. Sure, of course, because it went through the whole thing of Libra. And then it goes, and there we go. It moves back into retrograde. So this is the 3rd time. And it says early April to June as she goes back into Libra. And we're here right now. It gets really strong. And then she's going to go direct on July 10th, 2025, and then finish going this is 100% a lack of knowledge. It's agnosis, lack of wisdom, aka gnosis, wisdom. So does the elephant know when he wants to leave the visible? Head to the forest? This was, I told AI, can you make me an image where he's going towards the hospital? And the hospital has this little H, right? H means where people go and come, because this is the 8th letter, which is the infinity sign. That's what hospital means, a place where you go and you recycle, because the infinity sign means birth and death. So people go here with diagnosis. They don't realize who they are, and they can leave if they so choose, because they're lacking wisdom. So it's an agnosis when you walk into the hospital to get a diagnosis. So if you have a physical requirement, of course, to mend the bone or stitch a wound, that's of course. But they need to look at your chart. They need to understand the Hippocratic Oath and see what sign is in your chart you are being shown on why that incident happened to you, because it's going to be in your chart when anything happens to you, no matter what it is. So again, remember, do you want to be the elephant going towards that diagnosis, that lack of wisdom, that lack of knowledge? The doctors and nurses, everybody there are trying to help their best with your state of mind. You can't blame them for anything, because it's your state of mind that's bringing you there. They're only going to try to make you comfortable, whether you stay or you leave, because they have a heart. Their heart's in the right place, but they've not been educated. They have agnosis, lack of knowledge, lack of wisdom, but they're doing their best to help you. So here's another example of how beautiful things are on the Egyptian walls. So let's talk about raising of Osiris, raising your wisdom, your gnosis. If you want to learn astrology or gain wisdom, you have to learn these two Marys, right? This is Mary on the throne. This is the H, okay, when you leave the visible. And there's the inverted H, which is the other Mary, the upside down, which got the red shift. All right, so this image here I'm going to show you is an actual event that happens in the stars. And it's absolutely beautiful. We leave this for a reason. It's called raising Osiris because it's raising your wisdom, raising your knowledge. They're always, these two Marys are always with you at times of trouble. Mother Mary comes to me, right? AKA agnosis, to remind you who you are. Because you're never in trouble. You're at dis-ease. You're not at ease. So this happens in a cycle. And in 1648, this beautiful scene from the Egyptian papyrus of Ani is there. And look at the two glyphs, right? Remember, these two glyphs, right? This is Mary. This is Mary. This is Sirius rising in the east. So when you go look what happens in that date, it's there, okay? It's absolutely there. You have both Marys and the sun aligned with bright star Sirius and the mother, Mary, Virgin Mary. What does this mean? Well, they're always meeting with you on the stations of the cross, but they also meet with you at these key points. Why do you think Sirius is there? They talk about the rising of Sirius makes the Nile River floods. Well, this is another huge metaphysical flood that happens inside of you at this point in time. So this is the sun, the mother, and Sirius rising in the east with Mercury, the Akashic records, with Lilith, and with Mary Magdalene. So this scene is left here for a reason. They left this because they knew in 1648 this would happen. And so why are the baboons there? Well, because the baboons, they represent eclipses. So you're raising up, these two Marys are by your side, and the baboons are saying about an eclipse. And then on that same year, so this was July 1st in 1648. So why do we celebrate July 1st? It's because of these events. The baboons are there on that inscription, that page, because on June 21st, 1648, there was a hybrid eclipse. And this eclipse was huge. So what happened during that time? Were people cleansing? Absolutely, but also in beautiful ways. So there were rains and storms. And the period around 1648 falls within the Little Ice Age, a time marked across northern Europe by cooler temperatures and increased precipitation. The climate proxy data for 1968 shows 206 precipitation days. Remember the Nile River flood? So if you got 206 precipitation days, what happens is water's flowing everywhere because the mother rolls with Sirius, right? And Sirius is what? The one that controls the Nile River, because when Sirius does its heliacal rising, the River Nile floods. So now this is a special flood that flooded the whole Earth. And that hybrid eclipse on June 21st was a rare hybrid event. So this is all beautiful, folks. This is what we need to know. So your diagnosis will be, hey, we're upon these spiritual cleanses that changes our waters from within. We don't have to run to a hospital or somebody's going to give you a label so you wear that label all day and all night when you should be wearing the label of you're being loved, you're being guided, and I may have to do a little bit of forgiveness process to get there. So that being the end of this, I'm going to leave you with this beautiful synchronistic message shared by Unity teacher Wendy Carr. Listen to the words of these three sisters and remember the theme today on Uranus, on Alcyone, and the Russian dolls, because everything is 100% holographic, fractal, whatever you want to call it, where everything comes together as one from past lifetimes to now. This is One Voice by the Wailin Jennings, and listen to the way they change the one voice to three back to one.
This is the sound of one voice, one spirit, one voice, the sound of one who makes a choice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of voices too. The sound of me singing with you, helping each other to make it through. This is the sound of voices too. This is the sound of voices too. This is the sound of voices three, singing together in harmony, surrendering to the mystery. This is the sound of voices three. This is the sound of voices three. Ooh. This is the sound of all of us, singing with love and a will to trust. Leave the rest behind, it'll turn to dust. This is the sound of all of us. This is the sound of all of us. This is the sound of one voice, one people, one voice, a song for every one of us. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice.
Isn't that beautiful? Three of them saying, this is the sound of one voice. And that's all we have for today.